Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chris Taylor and I am the advocate of the devil. A little known fact about me, on top of being a writer and performer of this very show, back in my high school days I used to be somewhat of a Weird Al of Christmas songs and other assorted popular music. Recently, I've tried my hand at such things again, and this is what I've come up with. Tale as old as time, blood flows red like wine, Marvel and DC. That's right, folks. The great cinematic adaptation war known as the comic book movie is our topic of the day. Marvel, with ticket sales through the roof thanks to the Avengers and their various heroic adventures, seem to be cracking down on DC's attempts at a unifying cinematic universe. Tony Stark, Thor, Captain America, and the like have all had movies that were, some could describe as, average at worst. DC, struggling to catch up, has given us Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman, with Wonder Woman showing up at the very least to keep up diversity. It's obvious from an outsider's perspective that DC should just throw in the towel, call it quits. Marvel is practically infallible and DC is floundering along without a positive outing in sight. But here's the thing. Despite being critical misfires, the DC cinematic universe has given us not only a good change of pace from Marvel's outings, but a potential for a bright future in comic book movies in general. If there's one thing that I know for sure, it's that my tastes differ greatly from those around me. And that's why I've found something enjoyable about both movies in the DC cinematic universe. Mostly because, well, I never know exactly what I'm gonna get. In Hollywood, it seems that the order of the day is to make as much profit for as little risk as humanly possible. A sure thing will be made, and it will follow a formula. DC's movies do the exact opposite of that. From a Batman who kills, to a Lex Luthor who resembles no previous version of that character seen before. Whether it succeeds or fails, at least it's something different. With a Marvel movie, it 100% follows the tried and true formula. I continue to watch because I grew up with those characters and want to see how their comic book story arcs translate to the big screen. With DC, as a kid, I wasn't much of a fan, but as an adult, it's provided with some much needed difference that is sorely lacking in the idea department for superhero flicks. Personally for me, I'd rather watch something that fails spectacularly instead of just another bad guy with an army of lesser selves and a big sky beam at the end.
I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to take this time to explain my evil plan.
That was actually the most disappointing thing to me about Suicide Squad. At the end, it was almost trying to be like the third act of a Marvel movie instead of continuing to be its own thing. Which brings me to my second point. Competition. In order to keep things fresh, exciting, and new, you need competition. You need someone on the opposite side of things to keep pushing you to your limits. It's why we watch sporting events in the Olympics. It's why we participate in the console wars. It's one of the reasons why pro wrestling isn't as popular as it was 20 odd years ago. And it's why DC will always have a place in movies. Ben Affleck, for all the ire it got from the internet when it was first announced, actually gave us a Batman and a Bruce Wayne. Not just one or the other. If you take a look at all of the previous solo films, as I'm sure we will at some point in the new year, the actor, with the possible exception of Michael Keaton, another hotly discussed man in the bat mask, was only able to successfully nail one aspect of Bruce Wayne's duality. But Ben was able to seem legitimately terrifying as the Bat, as well as quirky, drunk, arrogant playboy that is Mr. Wayne.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race, and if we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
DC pulled a trump card in him, and in my opinion, it fit perfectly. I didn't care that he seemed to forget the must-never-kill aspect of the character, an aspect that even the comics themselves go back and forth on, because he fit with the world that DC was building, a world very different from Marvel's movie magic.
Be their hero, Clark. Be their monument, be their angel, be anything they need you to be. Or be none of it.
And Suicide Squad gave us yet another difference. A movie about the bad guys.
Seriously, the hell's wrong with you people?
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
Taking a cue from Marvel's playbook and including brief clips of both Batman and The Flash in movies that weren't strictly about them, while telling the origin stories of the villains, we got a glimpse at what this DC world has done to its inhabitants. Turned them towards a life of crime. The closest Marvel got to this was playing both good guy sides against each other in Civil War, and while I can't deny that it was executed in a much better fashion, it doesn't stop me from giving points to DC for at least making an effort. DC may not have the critical acclaim that Marvel has, but they aren't afraid of taking risks, doing things that their competition, quite frankly, isn't doing at all. Which leads me to my next and final point. The one thing that fans have been practically begging for, and yet, it's not the House of M that's delivering. It's DC.
It is our sacred duty to defend the world.
And it's what I'm going to do.
Scarlett Johansson entered the MCU as Black Widow in Iron Man 2 back in 2010. Since then, she's been in 2 Avenger movies, 2 Captain America movies, and 0 solo outings. She is arguably one of the most intriguing characters in the entire Rogues Gallery, yet, besides a flashback scene in Age of Ultron, we have seen very little in the way of fleshing out that character.
Not a great plan.
Even die-hard fans of the franchise have been asking for this. We have a schedule going all the way to around 2020, yet still, the only major female protagonist that has at least been around since near the beginning of this massive Marvel movie machine is conspicuous in her absence. Which of course leaves things wide open for DC to do what Marvel has not, put out a female-led solo superhero film, and in 2017, we're gonna get exactly that. Hollywood isn't exactly known for its ability to put a woman at the forefront, and sadly, Marvel Studios is very much in that same camp. But once again, for good or for ill, DC seems ready, willing, and able to take that plunge, to give us something different, something we haven't seen yet.
I've killed things from other worlds before.
After already seeing her portrayal of Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman, Gal Gadot has a lot riding on this solo film. And maybe that's exactly what DC needs to do to, as the critics would say, catch up to the success of Marvel. We didn't just have the Avengers right out of the gate. We had several single character movies to build up the eventual team up. We had origin stories to get new fans up to speed on several decades worth of material and alterations. We had strong, or at least decent movies with little references here and there to the eventual collision of these characters. DC has made stumble after stumble in execution, in trying to match what the other guys have done. But real strength comes from what sets your own side apart, your own strengths over the other. And with just a few key adjustments, DC can very easily catch up to their competitors. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, I do hope I managed to shed some light on the things that DC has succeeded in. Whether it be the way they're casting, in being the first to give us movies with not only a female lead, but even a menagerie of menacing madcaps, DC is at the very least not following a formula, and is willing to try new things in the way they bring out their flicks. And while it would be hard to argue that there haven't been some stumbles along the way, it should be noted that failing spectacularly still garners attention, while towing the line and sticking to the way things always are, will eventually always breed stagnation and boredom. As always, feel free to let us know in the comments below what you think of the DC cinematic universe. Should they just tap out now before disaster strikes again? Is Marvel too big to be overtaken? Feel free to let your thoughts conflict with my own, so that I may proceed to prove you wrong.
Boom! Lawyered.
But for now, in the case of the DC cinematic universe, the defense rests. Alright, let's not pretend that anything with a Marvel logo on it is completely without fault. Okay, guys? Yes, I know it was a Fox film, but it's still a Marvel property. They're not infallible, okay?